Hello everybody, I hope you can hear us. We haven't had a chance to do any checks this morning because our tyre was flat. Why it was flat I'm not sure, but it was, and it is no longer, so that's good. You are on a live safari. My name is James Henry. Tebs is on camera. Hello Tebs. And we are in the northeast corner of South Africa, recently voted the most beautiful country in the world, which is great news. And mostly by South Africans, of course. And we're sitting in the western fringes of the Kruger National Park. Dawn has just broke, the sun has yet to come up over the horizon, and our plan this morning is to just check around an area where Karula, the great queen of Djuma, an 11-year-old female leopard, was last seen. She was on a kill yesterday on the reserve just to the south of us, and we're hoping maybe that she's come north. I'm not sure what Brent's plans are other than to try and get a picture, but that's the story with us this morning. The second thing, of course, that you need to know is that you are on a live safari, which means we want to talk to you. Hashtag Safari Live if you would like to ask any questions at all about what we're seeing or about the operation here or what we do, and then questions at WildEarth.tv if you're on the email. So that's hashtag Safari Live if you're tweeting, and questions at WildEarth.tv if you're on the email. Cloud about to start shining in the light of the sun, and in front of them a little herd of impala that are just basking in the glory of having survived the night unscathed. There they are. Very pretty. The most common antelope we get here, of course, and the favoured food of just about every single predator out here, from cheetah to wild dogs to hyena to leopard and lion. A bit small for lions, but very nice tasty snacks while on the way to try and catch bigger things like buffalo. In the background you can hear Shelley's Franklin calling. Isn't that lovely? And the little babies on their mothers. And there has been a dearth, I suppose, of predator activity in this area for the last few days, which is totally normal. And that means that every day those little babies will have a slightly better chance of getting surviving to their first birthday. Only about 50% of those little baby impalas will survive to their first birthday. You can see one there, just his head or her head knocking above the others. And it's about 18 degrees centigrade here at the moment, which is a very pleasant temperature for it to be out here. And that works out, I think, at about 67 or 66 degrees Fahrenheit. There's some two fork-tailed drongos. Beautiful little fork-tailed drongos. They're just sitting there enjoying the fact that the impala are kicking up the odd invertebrate, insect, maybe a spider or two as they walk through the grass. And the sharp eyes of those drongos can spot those, and they'll go off and hawk them off the ground. Well, that's not strictly hawking, actually. It's more picking them off the ground or hawking them out of the air. Beautiful little morning scene. Right, I believe that Brent Leo Smith seems to be back up and running. Well, he's just sort of up and running. He is with Andrew. Let's hand over to them. And before we do that, of course, flying solo in the final control is Geraldine, all alone this morning, but I'm sure that she will be fine. So send her some very well New Year's wishes, and I'll see you just a little bit later.
Good morning and welcome to Andrew, Joseph Francis and Brent Kevin Leo Smith's last drive of 2015. It is going to be epic. We have moved towards the eastern boundary where we had those buffalo herds, hoping that the Birmingham boys have followed them in. Unfortunately, as I've just seen, there are buffalo behind me, so they have not followed them in. And so hopefully there's a leopard or two that have come in to grace us with their presence on our last drive. Here we have a small herd of buffalo that are not being pursued by lions. So, as wonderful as buffalo are, I always find them far more entertaining when being pursued by lions. Little breeding herd. We saw 3 little breeding herds like this last night. And as you can see, they have corralled over the night in a tight little circle for protection against lions. And unfortunately, lions have not made an appearance. Yes, I don't owe you any money. Stop looking at me like that. Unfortunately, it's very early in the morning, so the terrible biting flies have not managed to make an appearance just yet. So this is how buffalo often spend their evenings. They'll find a relatively open area. She a pretty girl. Slightly wonky horns, but quite feminine for a buffalo at least. Looks like she's not used to having a compliment. She looks like she's actually quite surprised. And you can see she doesn't have that very distinct, heavily built boss of the males. If we go to the right of her, there's a little one. By judging by the length of his horns, probably between 6 months and a year old. Has the same bemused expression as the female. So buffalo quite often spend their nights, they find a nice, slightly more open area, and they band together. And you normally have males or older females on the outside, and the little ones in the middle. And if we come off to the right a bit more there, Andrew, you can see he looks like, let's go, moving, that one. He looks like he's definitely the boss, with his very dominant boss, and a slightly evil glint in his eye. So that'll be one of the dominant herd bulls. And he will sleep on the peripheries of the herd. Very small herd, I'd say 50 animals. So we saw 3 herds like this yesterday. And we're really hoping as we got to our eastern boundary that the lions might have possibly followed them in from the south. Well, there we go. A bit of grumpiness in the morning. Hasn't had his coffee. Now the female, slightly more alert than the rest, really doesn't want to be eaten by lions this morning. And she's not looking at us. She's staring blandly into the distance. And there we go. You can see on the left there, the rumination, or chewing the cud. You can actually see the bolus in the cheek. Oh, sorry. In the cheek. So buffaloes have 4 stomachs, like most ruminants. And I wonder who is wide awake at this ungodly hour this morning and wide awake enough to tell me what are the names of the 4 stomachs of a ruminant. And if you do know, you can send your answers through to questions@wildearth.tv or use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter.
Nothing so far. 1.0, not sure where Brent
I just have to be on the radio for a second.
Okay, go ahead, going along
They're slightly older. Oh no, it's the exact same calf. I apologize. They're probably between 6 months and a year old. If we go to the left, past the... Ooh, that's one thing. So if buffalo are not staring at you like they want to murder you, to the left of that one there, they have a very bemused look upon their face. This one has definitely not had its morning coffee and is dozing off. It's a slightly older calf, probably just over a year old. Why have you not brought lions with you guys? So hopefully they might not have brought lions, but hopefully we will find leopard tracks in the wonderful soft sand. And don't forget, those of you who are not sure, remember, what are the names of the 4 stomachs of a ruminant? And you can send your answers through to questions@wildearth.tv or use the hashtag Safari Live. Now we see this cow has got some leaves stuck behind her ear, and that is from scratching. And she's obviously got some ticks and whatnot, and buffalo obviously don't have a useful opposable thumb or even fingers at that matter like we do, so quite often they will scratch using trees, and it's not uncommon that those branches get stuck behind their ears. So Eric from Virginia Beach is wondering, what is the purpose of that white patch below buffalo's eyes? It is called a preorbital gland, and it releases different pheromones. And in buffalo, in most animals, it's used for scent marking and establishing territory. Now, buffalo are a non-territorial animal, so it's quite interesting. And I'm not 100% sure what the function the preorbital glands feature in buffalo. It probably got a bit to do with mating. It might start weeping when they're a bit stressed, or it could just be to make them look funny. But we're going to leave this little herd of buffalo. We're going to continue north along the eastern boundary, and fingers crossed we're going to find some kitty cat tracks for Andrew and my last drive. Goodbye, buffaloes. No, don't get up. Don't get up. Stay down. A very good morrow to Donna, who's contacting us via Twitter. I mean, Donna is very technologically savvy, probably far more than Andrew and myself. And Donna would like to know if I've ever seen a buffalo at birth. Do they ever leave the herd? Sometimes they do, Donna. Normally they actually give birth within the herd while they're on the move. And I have seen probably more than 30 or 40 buffalo birds. I was fortunate enough in the area I grew up in northern Botswana. We recorded the largest buffalo herd since the rinderpest in the concession we were in. And it was so big that the Botswana government launched an aeroplane with a photographer in it who took photos of it, and some poor research assistant had to count every individual buffalo in that herd, and there were just over 5,000 buffalo in that herd. And actually in that particular herd at that time of the year, I actually saw 3 birds out of that herd. But if you spend a lot of time following buffalo herds, you get lucky enough to see birds. They do not have a distinct birthing or mating season. It continues throughout the year. And some of you will notice that we are in Rusty, but we're enjoying an incredibly smooth ride. Turned out we had the wrong shock absorbers in here. They were made for someone who thought he was Michael Schumacher in a Land Rover, who owned this vehicle before us. Incredibly hard racing road shocks. Obviously, the moment you hit a hole the size of a penny, it felt like you had descended into Middle Earth. But now with these new shocks, I don't have to throw the camera off. I can purposely hit bumps, and they don't cry and shout at me. Very good morrow to Ashley in Alabama. Ashley would like to know, how fast can a buffalo run? Much faster than a person. And so they can hit a top speed of around 45 kilometers an hour. And they can maintain that for quite some time. I'm unfortunately incredibly bad at conversions and maths, so I'm going to have to let you guys figure out what 45 kilometers an hour is in miles per hour. Guessing it's around the 20 or 25 miles an hour mark, but as I said, that is a complete bust. I'm very, very bad at mathematics. There we go. Geraldine, or as she's officially known as Gerald, has come through from final controls as 27 miles per hour, which is faster than the fastest man. And the big difference between the buffalo and the fastest man can't keep that up for more than probably about 60 meters, whereas the buffalo can do that for a couple of 100 meters. We developed large brains and opposable thumbs, so we don't have to run too fast and climb trees to escape predators or marauding buffalo. So it seems like we have very smart viewers. You've all got the 4 names of the ruminant right. Dilly, Margaret, Dax, actually I think it was Margaret who is being very funny this early in the morning, who says the stomach's named 1, 2, 3 and 4. Well, I suppose, Margaret, you're not incorrect, but you're not 100% correct. And obviously the most important stomach in those 4 is the rumen. And that is where the buffalo, or all buffalo, impala, giraffe, get their generic term of ruminants from. Oh, look at that, Andrew. Now, those are quite interesting tracks. If we go into the road ahead of us, it is the tracks of a bicycle, which means anti-poachers have been here before me this morning. Although we don't see them often, I'm sure they see us often, as they're here keeping our animals safe. And this RV Stands is a very effective and very professional anti-poaching team. I think some of the biggest frights I've got since I've been at WildEarth has been while tracking lions or leopards in the bush and suddenly looked to the side and seen a person with a large caliber firearm hiding in a bush. And it's turned out to be the anti-poaching team. So they will use bicycles to move bigger distances between places, but then they will set up a little fly camp somewhere in the middle of the bush and then do foot patrols from there. Andrew, why aren't the lions here? A very good morning to Lucy in Indiana. She says, I know the lions will kill young ones, but do they kill more males or females? Well, Lucy, I don't think they actually choose. It's the closest one they can grab. And to the exact ratio of the sex of buffalo that are devoured by lions, I would say I have absolutely no idea. Any lion tracks, Andrew? Doesn't look like it. No. Just buffalo from the other herd of buffalo. As I said, we saw 3 in this area last night, and I was really hoping that because of 3 herds of buffalo, it would attract at least 1 lion, even a half a lion, even a small lion. But so far, no luck. And said, we don't see the anti-poaching very often. I mean, if you have a quick look from a distance, we won't put the guys' faces on camera. They don't, it's not good for them, but there we go. There's some anti-poaching guys. So if the camera goes off to the left, it's not because we're trying to hide anything from you. It's because it is, we prefer not to have our anti-poaching staffs to faces on camera for obvious reasons, and I do ask kindly that you don't delve into too many questions on this. It is a very sensitive topic in South Africa at the moment, so we will leave it to that, so to speak. Up to the left, Andrew. Oh! Minjan!
Good.
Ja, wo geht's?
Okay,
Stop, wait. Yes?
all right.
Stop, what happens in the Ngala, yeah, bam?
No. Hey guys, don't have a cigarette, guys.
Loot mfethu yakunasi ya live. Yakamera yakho.
La.
No, we don't have any cigarettes. But yeah, look it. Loot ngala Ingwe. Loot.
Loot, just the rain.
Okay. Nkomfo.
Yeah.
Sharp. Enjoy.
Good.
Watch out for the lions, ne?
Yeah.
Is a cabin, yeah. Just down the road, yeah. No, on the road.
Oh, on the road. Okay.
Nkomo.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. So there we go. You got to see from a distance and hear me chat to some anti-poaching individuals who are armed with automatic weapons, bicycles, and a great sense of humor. They unfortunately have not seen any lions or leopards. They have only seen another herd of buffalo. Because it is our last drive, I'm going to let Andrew Joseph Francis decide where we should go next from this corner. I have not found any lion tracks. So let's see. I absolve myself from all blame of not finding animals today because we're going to let Andrew Joseph Francis decide where to go. So Andrew, we're approaching the Cheetah Cut Line Junction, Buffalo Cut Line. Where to from here?
Hyena Den straight away.
Oh. Unfortunately for Andrew, I'm not going to Hyena Den straight away. There has been another vehicle through there already. Andrew, unfortunately, does not get to listen to the game drive radio like I do. And there are no hyenas there. Apart from the Hyena Den straight away, Andrew, where do we go?
Away from the sun.
As we can see, the undulating hills of the northern Sabi Sands ahead of us on the Buffelshoek Cut Line. And from here, it's such a clear day. We can see actually beyond the Sabi Sands and all the way. That is the village of Utah's water tank in the distance. That is shining. There we go. Andrew is now trying to find a leopard for us. Come on, Andrew. Faster, faster. Gilly in Wisconsin, one of our regulars who we appreciate daily, would like to know how long Andrew and I are going to be away for. Forever, Gilly, forever. We're never coming back. No, I'm only playing. And will we ever tune in to watch the drives while we're away? Gilly, if I'm 100% honest, I don't think one of us tunes into the drives when we're away. We get updates, of course. I will get daily updates from my wonderful girlfriend Jamie, so I will know what's going on. But also, we are heading into deepest, darkest Africa. Andrew and I are heading up to Zimbabwe, and the likelihood of a good internet connection on the banks of Lake Kariba, while we are surrounded by elephants and tigerfish, is very unlikely. But we'll be gone for about 2 weeks, and then we will be back fresh and rejuvenated and ready to give James Henry as much uphill as possible. Andrew, which way?
Left.
Left, Andrew says left. And speaking of James Henry, as much as we enjoy giving him a hard time, hopefully he's found more animals than we have this morning, which is very little. Let's go see what he's up to.
There are no animals on Djuma, I'm afraid, and that's why we haven't found more than Brent Leo Smith has. But I hold out hope. And Tibbs was actually just asking me while we were driving along, he said, where is everything? And I think, well, first of all, there's obviously a natural ebb and flow of animals in a certain area. And secondly, the property to the north of us, kudu just here, the property to the north of us has got so much water on it that I think a lot of the animals are heading there. Certainly a lot of the herbivores, the water-dependent species. And because of that, those water-dependent species will also attract predators, and so the predators will kind of hang around the water holes. So 3 very beautiful kudu cows, but that will change. It's ebb and flow, and as the grazing runs out around that water, you'll find an area like this, which while it has less water, is certainly will certainly hold what little grazing there is for a bit longer, because it doesn't have herds of animals all of that's green radio. It doesn't have great herds of animals trying to eat what little grass there is. So perfectly normal ebb and flow. The kudu, of course, are browsing, which makes life a little bit easier for them at the moment than it will for the grazers. There's still quite a lot of green leaf on the trees, but I have to say, as we drove through this morning, the trees are looking sad. There's a lot of wilting in the leaves, and that's because there's just no water in the soil. So, I mean, we're about to hit January, and we've probably had less than 100 millimeters of rain. Now, that in inches is about 4 inches of rain. We've had less than that. So things are looking a bit dire. Beautiful, lovely golden light there on those magnificent kudu. Hello, BJ in Pennsylvania. You watched a documentary on something called a blood tree, and you say they're natives to South Africa, and do we find them in the Kruger? BJ, I've got to confess to you, I don't know what tree you mean. Can you possibly send through a tweet with a botanical name, so a Latin name? The common names, there are often lots of different common names. We might have it, we might not. So if you could send through the botanical name, I'll tell you if we get it here, and possibly where in South Africa you could find it. Trees, of course, there are probably well over 1,000 species of tree that you find in this area. In the Kruger area, and I've not heard of the blood tree. I don't think. A small bell ringing in the back of my mind, but certainly not sort of that makes me think, yes, of course. So if you can send through the botanical name, that would be great. And I'll try and find out for you if we have it here. And if we do, I will most certainly take you to it. But look at this tree here to the right-hand side. See how its leaves are wilting. That is a very unusual situation for this time of year. You can see them just drooping miserably, facing the ground. But what I want, what I would like you to take from this, of course, is that a drought is entirely normal for this area. It's not like there's been some kind of anthropogenic effect. Well, I mean, we know that climate change is an issue. Whether that's an issue here and whether that's causing the drought, I don't think so. It goes through cycles. While it can be a little bit difficult to watch because, yes, animals are going to start losing condition fairly soon, and that's not going to be pleasant to watch. It's an open system. For millennia, it's dealt with droughts, it's dealt with flood, it's dealt with all sorts of different kind of environmental hazards and environmental disasters. So it's perfectly adapted to dealing with it. And while it will take a hit, it's a dynamic equilibrium, and it will bring about changes that are very interesting and will be fascinating to watch. One thing that I suppose from a game viewing point of view is not a great thing is that the drought will probably favor the trees more than it does the grasses. Or the trees will survive it better because they've got much deeper root systems, where the grasses, of course, don't. And so they will die off quickly because they need surface water in order to sort of flush and stay alive. Right, we're heading to Treehouse Dam. I think we need to rename Treehouse Dam something else, because to call the puddle that is, look at this. No, I thought it was a frog. It is a stick. It is not a frog, it is a stick. To call Treehouse Dam a dam at this stage is ridiculous. Hello Chantel, you're in Canada, where I don't think you're having a drought. You're obviously quite clued up and you want to know the difference between a greater kudu and a lesser kudu. The lesser kudu, as far as I understand it, is not found, well, it's definitely not found here. Found up, I think, into Zambia and possibly into Tanzania and Kenya. The lesser kudu, I think, Chantel, is just smaller than the greater kudu. I think you'll find that they could probably interbreed quite successfully if were they to be found in the same place. But the greater kudu is just slightly larger. So just to confirm, it's the greater kudu that we're seeing out here. Right, here we are arriving at this amazing puddle. Where not much is going on. We go onto the dam wall there. Have a general assessment of the area. We'll listen out. Listen to the dawn chorus and see if we can't hear some animals' alarm calling. Go. So an update from Gilly, who has given us the Latin name of the blood tree, or what could be the blood tree. I'm going to ask for it again in my ear because I didn't quite get it. Geraldine, if I might have it again, as I look at the sun. Jacana cinnabari. Right, so there it is. I've certainly never heard of it before, so I'm pretty sure that we don't find it here, and apparently extinct almost because of desertification in North Africa, so I've never seen it in this area. Remember, there's some birds in here, Tibbs, I don't know if you can see them. Remember, Africa is a giant continent, of course, and the vegetation of the Sahel or semi-desert areas of North Africa just south of the Sahara will be entirely distinct from the vegetation here in South Africa. I mean, they're thousands and thousands of miles away. Ah, well spotted. It's a rattling testicle, everybody. And we seldom see them. They normally just fly away from us. This is a rattling testicle. It might be something else. It might be a prinia. I'm just looking. I can't actually see it, so I'm having to watch through my monitor. pretty sure that that is a rattling cisticola. Yes. Isn't he lovely? Look at him enjoying the early sunlight. It feels like it's going to be quite a scorcher today. I don't think it is. Apparently the weather report says it'll be about 90 degrees. Ooh, and a squirrel. I think that's what they were alarm calling at, possibly those birds. What the squirrel's looking for. Now, squirrels are rodents, of course, which means that they will eat seeds, they'll eat nuts, they'll eat insects and that sort of thing. I don't think the birds would have any trouble from them. Oh, that said, I mean, we know that rats certainly will get into small birds' nests, so maybe there is a little bit of danger to a tiny fledgling bird from a squirrel. They'll eat pretty much anything. Right, on we go. Not a great deal, no teeming herds streaming down to Treehouse Dam to have a drink. And when we talk about desertification, well, this is pretty desertified, isn't it? Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty warm. There's our shadow, you can see us. Sorry, Tibbs, before we move on, I think we should take advantage of everything we can. There's a dove sitting on the tree just here, and we don't often get them sitting so confidingly. It's lovely. Looks like a green spotted or emerald spotted wood dove, or a laughing dove. I should be able to tell. I think it's a laughing dove, everybody. And lovely light on the leaves there. Very peaceful morning. And that, of course, is one of the major reasons I live out here. The elephants and the leopards and the lions and the wild dogs, to me, are something of a bonus. To come and sit out here in the early dawning light, with the dove preening itself gently, and a couple of squirrels foraging next to us, the chin spot batis going just around here. It's just a great feeling of peacefulness. Right, let us continue our little journey of discovery. See what else we can find. One of the sad things about this drought is the weavers, whose nests are just up there. There's a village of spotted backed weavers. They seem to have abandoned their nests, and I don't think that they're going to come back and build them. They normally build over water, of course, so they would have started building expecting there to be some water here, and alas, that is not the case. I'm just listening to the radio update. There we go. Nothing of any import. Hello, Cat on Twitter, and you say we need to discover the new carnivore, the invisible cat. They're all over the place, Cat. Look at them. Plenty of invisible carnivores all over the place. So invisible, so effectively invisible that we cannot see them. Now, I'm sure Brent told you that Karula was last seen south of us on a kill, and so maybe she's come north this morning. He's going to check the southern boundary. I'll check around here and see if her tracks don't come back. But otherwise, cat-wise, it's been very quiet. Yeah, like I said a few days ago, it is possible that Shadow has got cubs. We don't know. She has been moving into and out of an area where there's a little possible den site. And what that means is we don't go and sort of stick our heads in there and try and disturb her and find out if there is anything. We'll wait 2 or 3 weeks and then go and have a look and see what's going on. That's just on the northern fringes of Arethusa. That will be very exciting if that happens. That means that she's kind of out of commission for the next little while. Yeah, so that's where we are, leopard-wise. Lions obviously don't like Djuma. They haven't been here for 5 or 6 weeks. Apparently Tingana was found to the south of us, and he was heading north. Whether he actually makes it into Djuma or not, well, we don't know. Maybe. We are now quite close to the southern boundary, and we're going to head around Twin Dams, of course, which hasn't carried water for some months. Genevieve, you're in New York, and you want to know about temperature drops, and you say, have we ever experienced a significant temperature drop in a very short period of time? Yes, we have. I mean, that happens if a storm comes through, it can be 40 degrees, and then after the storm it'll drop to sort of 18, which is what it is now. So 40 degrees is about 103 in Fahrenheit, and it'll drop down to 67 in the space of, I don't know, half an hour or so. So that definitely happens. In winter it tends to be fairly consistent, or not consistent, but it'll go from 4 degrees centigrade in the mornings, which I think is probably about 48 Fahrenheit or so, and it'll go up to a very balmy and pleasant 72 during the middle of the day, and then back down again at night, and that is consistent for almost 3 months. It'll do that. And then in summertime you do have great changes with the big weather systems that come through. It really is not a great deal to be looking at right now. There are tracks on the road. Might be time to run for the hyena den to see if we can find something there. Good heavens, we're getting some difficult ones today. Jeffrey in Texas, you say a binturong is an Asian species of mammal that also has popcorn-smelling urine, the same as a leopard does. Jeffrey, without knowing what a binturong is, I've got no idea, other than to say maybe it's just whatever it is, there's a hormone in it that helps to fix the scent to whatever they mark the territories on, and perhaps it's an example of co-evolution. I don't know what a binturong is. It's an antelope, a rodent, a carnivore. Let me know what it is. Hang on, here we go. Oh, it's a viverrid. Okay, so it's a viverrid or bear cat, so it looks like, basically it's a civet. That will be the closest relative. And I suspect, Jeffrey, it's simply a case of the fact that there's a fixative in the urine, like a perfume fixative, and civets are certainly used for perfume fixatives. Their anal glands are used for that. I suspect it just helps the scent to stay on whatever tree they're marking. That's why it smells like buttered popcorn. I have to confess, I've never thought that it does smell like buttered popcorn. I've seen countless leopards marking their territory, and buttered popcorn is the last of what I smell. And when I go to the movies, when I'm allowed out to the city, the last thing I think of when I'm walking to buy my ticket is, ooh, that smells like a leopard's just marked here. I think it smells like slightly sort of spicy urine. Shell in Michigan, you would like me to spell cisticola for you for your bird list. C-I-S-T-I-C-O-L-A. C-I-S-T-I-C-O-L-A. Now, many people will say cisticola. The first time I heard it was cisticola, so yeah. Call it anything you like. That's what it is. C-I-S-T-I-C-O-L-A, cisticola. It sounds like a fairly rare kind of soft drink, I suppose. Teresa, you want to know there's a treehouse dam. There used to be, Teresa, and it was quite interesting. That was built. It's actually a fascinating story. It was built for. There's also a road around there called Savage's Track, and it's called Savage's Track because there was a plan to have a kind of reality TV show in the wild, where you'd drop off some. The concept's fairly common. You drop off some good-looking people, and they have to survive in the wild. And you put cameras all over the trees there, and you just see what happens, basically. And it was sort of like almost like a Big Brother in the bush. And it seemed to be that the concept was going to take off, and they were going to do it. I think they actually had. I think they filmed the first episode or two, and that was at Treehouse Dam. So there was a treehouse there, and there was also the show, and I think it was called Savages, and that's why the road's called Savages Track. I may be getting this wrong, but I think it's pretty accurate. And then that was in 2001 in September. And of course, the world's media attention very quickly switched from any kind of reality television in Africa to the disaster that befell New York City. And apparently, that basically killed off the concept. And so it never got off the ground. But the treehouse was taken down, and the dam remained as Treehouse Dam. The treehouse may have existed before that, and Savage's Track retained its name. The good-looking sort of half-celebrity, B-grade celebrities went home and got on with their lives. Probably to be found at office desks as we speak. Right, it's nothing at Treehouse Dam, unsurprisingly. Tracks on the road. I think what we'll do is make our way gently up towards Gallagher Pan, possibly check in with our hyena den. I didn't go once to the hyena den yesterday, and of course I normally need my twice daily fix hyena action. While we do that, before we do that actually, there's a little couple of crested barbets. You see the bird there, Ted?
Confirm you're in Aubrey, guys.
Beautiful crested barbet there. And you can't see this because he's silhouetted, of course, but he's black and white and yellow and red. Beautiful bird, but very scruffy. Them and the tawny eagle were notoriously scruffy. See? He's hardly got smooth feathers like the woodland kingfisher, for example. Now, he's a fruitarian, largely, which means or a frugivore, which means he's going to struggle to find a lot of food around here at the moment. But he will eat insects as well, and you'll find them eating termites quite a lot. Termites are great food for any animal, from humans to warthogs to birds to lizards. They're so full of fatty energy. And there you can hear the other one calling. Let's see if this one calls. Also known as the alarm clock bird. And this is actually the name, I think this is the first bird I ever learned. And that was because I may have mentioned her before, but my parents had a cat called Miss Brown. And Miss Brown was a vicious Burmese, and she used to catch birds in the garden in Johannesburg. And the crested barbet was a particular favourite. There he's calling. See how indignant he looks? That's quite sweet. And the barbet, of course, is a hole nesting bird, and one of the few birds with a bill heavy enough to be able to dig its own tree hole. So while they will no doubt steal other birds' nests or use originally woodpecker dug holes, and they can dig their own. kind dignity looks. All right, let's carry on from the crested bar of it. You can see the sun shining in his eye there. Ah, fascinating stuff here. We really are scraping the barrel at the moment. Leo Smith is at Treehouse Dam, and he's there to show you the remnants of the treehouse. I will try and find some form of interesting mammal to show you in the next little while. Remember, everybody, we do have something to look forward to at the end of the drive, of course, and that is the 50-metre sprint-off between Brent Longlegs Leo Smith and James Sandpiper Legs Henry. We'll see what happens then. We'll probably try and do that at about 10 to 8.
Well, let us hope James's running skills are better than his observation skills, but we are at the treehouse waterhole, and the reason it is called the treehouse waterhole is because there was a treehouse here, and there are some of the remnants. Maybe I should have got James a pair of glasses for Christmas. As you can see, there used to be a treehouse in that marula tree at the western edge of the dam many years ago. A nice little viewing platform. Whoever built it was very brave, because the last tree I would build a viewing platform is a marula. They are not the strongest of trees, and their branches tend to fall down when the wind blows stiffly. I, fortunately, being the well-informed individual that I am, have heard that Karula has been found. She is south of our boundary, walking parallel to it. So I am in contact with Sean, who's with her at the moment, and I'm hoping that she does decide to, instead of heading west, cut north at some point. So what I'm going to do is make my way towards our southern boundary, and hopefully she comes to join us. And I'm sure Karula would want to see Andrew and I before we leave. No, I'm only joking. She can do what she wants. I don't believe leopards have a particular preference between, or can tell the difference between who's in the vehicle and who's not. It is going to be a beautiful day. I know a lot of you are excited this evening. Jamie will be on game drive. Andrew and myself will be lounging in the pool. Jamie is taking my spot in the hot seat. And Brian Joubert will be back taking Andrew's spot. So with Brian back, we can look forward to some much better camera work and general stability. Not this wobbly stuff Andrew gives us. As much as we are going to miss being on drive with you, we will definitely think of everyone while we are lounging on a houseboat in Lake Kariba. So Bill, who's a tweeter, would like to know what type of fish we're going after. Well, Bill, Andrew will be going after anything he can possibly catch. Myself will be targeting the tiger fish specifically, and also trying to teach Andrew, Joseph and Francis how to fly fish. Andrew, Joseph, Francis is just cleaning the lens quickly. Andrew, have you ever fly fished before?
One time, and it was very dangerous. I nearly got snagged.
Yes, I'm quite looking forward to this, because we'll not be using a little 4-weight or 3-weight that you would use for trout. we'll be using a large, heavy 9-weight, throwing large hooks. And I've got a feeling I shall have the joy of surgically removing a few from Andrew's body while he learns to fly fish. But hopefully, by the end of it, we will have a skilled fly fisherman. But our main species we're going to target on fly will definitely be tigerfish and tilapia. And we'll probably try and catch a few big catfish as well, but that won't be on fly. That we'll be using lumps of smelly meat at night.
Which bird are we going for?
The lilac-breasted roller. You see it?
Negative. Oh, yes.
The
okay.
terminalia,
Okay.
left-hand branch.
I got him.
There we go. It's a very, very pretty bird. Oh, I apologize. No, it is. It's a funny-looking lilac-breasted roller. It is one of this year's babies. It hasn't quite got its proper colors yet. And the lilac breast is still forming, and the rackets on the elongated tail have not quite formed yet. And once... Oh no, now I've lost the other one. There was an adult, and it's flown off as well. I'm just trying to find that adult lilac-breasted roller. I took my eyes off it for a second and it disappeared. It's the thing about creatures with wings. They can be quite tricky. But isn't that interesting? So where we are, that's possibly one of the roller checks that Scott was keeping a check on. Oh, I hear it. There we go. Oh, they're fighting with a magpie shrike. For what reason, I'm not sure. They were bombing the magpie shrike. The magpie shrike has now buried itself in the center of that baby leadwood. The rollers have moved off, but the rollers were attacking it. Here we go, you can hear the magpie shrike rather than see it. There we go, there it goes. They both feed off similar things, so that's possibly why the rollers were chasing the magpie shrike, due to the fact it's competing for the same food source. So unfortunately I was still on a handheld, so it can be a little bit bad, so I'm just going to ask Gerald to repeat for me that question.
Hello everybody, sorry to pull you away from Brent there, but beautiful little herd of elephants here, and this one is digging in the sand. I'm not sure what she's going for. The first thing she did was to break off a morning glory flower, and I thought she was going to eat it, and she discarded it, and now she seems to be digging. So she digs a bit and then she blows away the sand, and then she digs a bit, and there might be a root or something in there that she wants to eat. There's another big, well, not big, young bull coming from behind us. We're still in the sort of treehouse dam vicinity, and I wonder if they're not perhaps hoping to find something to drink there a bit later. So this one is obviously a bull. And let's just check the interaction here. Look at him. He's just pushing her out the way, being a bit of a bully. Now, interestingly, he's dripping urine And I wonder if he isn't sort of coming into a sort of proto-must or first must period. He's a young bull. He's probably about 18 years old, and maybe he's coming into his first must, and so he's just feeling a little bit, full of testosterone at the moment. I think we should follow these elephants all day. We're unlikely to find anything else. They seem to be very relaxed with us. Wonderful. Possibly the mother of this one. She's eating wild asparagus. The little one's eating wild asparagus now. And they're very selective feeders, you know. We tend to think of them being fairly indiscriminate. There, she's had a bit of lily. Oh, she enjoys those. They're not indiscriminate eaters at all. They will be very selective about what they eat. And very pretty, of course, in the early dawn light. We've had, because of the lack of rain, I think, and the lack of cloud, we've had some pretty sort of pale gold sunsets and pale gold sunrises. Lack of moisture in the air tends to make things much paler, but equally as lovely. Oh, this is a big cow. And she's watching us carefully. She's just giving us a smell. And you can see she's scratching the inside of her leg with her other leg. Actually, amazingly, she's scratching it on a branch. They're amazingly nimble. They look so sort of unwieldy almost when they're running, when they're walking, but they'll walk up and climb up the most tremendous inclines and go down them with surprising grace. She's coming a bit closer to have a look and also to pick some plants. So to see what she eats. She's eating a young Cambritan bush, it looks like to me. And she's smelling around on the ground. Touch, touch, touch. She's also, I think, investigating us. So while she is looking for things to eat, she's definitely coming a little closer to have a look-see what we want. And you can tell that because she's not sort of at the task of feeding with quite the enthusiasm as the young one. Also, she's right next to that lily, and while she's taken it now, she did reject it 3 or 4 times. Now she's watching us very carefully. She doesn't seem to be threatened by us at all. She hasn't shaken her head. She hasn't lifted her head up. She's just watched us quite carefully. Totally silent as she moves. Let's see if she pops out the other end there. There she comes. Now you can see that slight kind of bobbing up and down of the head. The bobbing up and down of the head is I mean, it's indicative that she's not uncomfortable. She's just saying, I'm watching you. And if she was uncomfortable, she'd shake her head at us, maybe make a noise. I think she's also pregnant. You can see the big bulge in the back side of her, or the right-hand side of her stomach at the top. I think she's carrying a little calf. And certainly her mammary glands seem to be very swollen, so I think maybe she's about to have a little baby. It will be a tough entrance to the world for that little baby during the middle of a drought. I'm not going to move just yet. I just want to see what's happening here with the bull to the right-hand side, because I think he's going to come this way. Yeah, here he comes, Tibbs. There's the young bull. Now, we're looking at generally adult elephants here, and there was a young one there, probably of about 8 years. And Kathy, you're in Tennessee, and you want to know the difference between a milk tusk and a normal tusk. Kathy, it's exactly the same as the difference between your milk teeth and your normal teeth, or your adult teeth. They fall out at a certain age, and then they're replaced by older ones. And I'm not sure when the milk tusks actually do fall out in an elephant. I think it's earlier than in a human being, but just in exactly the same way as you've got your baby teeth, and then they all fall out, and you get your adult teeth. So it is with the elephants and their tusks, which are in fact just modified in sizes. And I'm not sure. I think most mammals have got a set of milk teeth that are replaced eventually by the adult versions of the same thing. But I'd be very interested if any of our viewers could tell me any animals that don't have that situation, any mammals that don't have that situation. Yeah, this young bull is just, look, they're having a bit of a tussle. I think this young bull is starting to sort of have elevated levels of testosterone. Let's follow him. Around here, and then hopefully get in front of him. And also have a look at the cow there. The one, the one. Well, apparently Brent has something exciting. Let's go across to him.
And of course, how wonderful is this? The Queen of Djuma has decided to grace us with her presence. So we're with Karula, the dominant female leopard in this area, and at the moment she is actually lying about 60 meters, 70 meters south of our boundary in the Mawati. Oops, there's my radio, sorry about that. In the Mawati, but I'm hoping she comes north straight towards us. So she obviously, the kill she made to the south of us was obviously very small, but she's left it and she's on the move again. And fingers crossed, when she's finished giving herself a good clean, she heads towards us and decides to come back to Djuma. So leopards, being a solitary predator, spend a lot of time cleaning themselves, and they do give this perception of being wonderfully, beautifully sleek and clean animals. However, they are not. They're literally covered in ticks and other parasites, fleas, but only when you're very close do you start noticing them. And I'm sure if they had a choice, there wouldn't be. They spend a lot of time trying to get rid of all those different itchy creatures. But the black cat days have ended. We have broken the streak of 6 drives with no cats. And what a fitting cat to break the streak with, the Queen of Djuma. So enjoying the nice cool sand of this dry riverbed. There's a couple of other vehicles also enjoying it. As Andrew zooms out, you'll see right in the riverbed. We are sitting on our southern boundary, so you can see it should be about 60, 70 meters inside what I think is called, I think it's Hoffman's is the name of the property she's in. It is part of her territory, so not unusual for her to be there, but we're hoping she comes back towards us into the core of her territory, which is Djuma. She does have the look like she might get up and start walking. Fingers crossed. I might have to move because I am blocking the whole road. There's a car coming. Maybe just to move. Yes, I like to block the whole road, you know, just to be difficult. But it does look like she might move, hopefully soon. Head is up. She is not a flat cat. It is still cool. So. Oh, there we go. She's moving towards us. That's always a good sign. Looks like she's going to go up the drainage. We might not have the best visual for a while. We are right in the bottom of the river, so sometimes our signal might break up, so we do apologize ahead of time if we have to move. But at the moment we're in the perfect spot and she's coming straight towards us. Okay, so she's popped up. Looks like she's going up the edge of the drainage line. We're going to have to move. We're going to have to try guess where she's going to come out. So while we do that, let's go across to James. He's with the largest member of Africa's Big Five.
Well, now that was very exciting, everybody. There you've got a wonderful sighting of Karula the Queen, a little bit further east of where I thought she was going to be. But Brent Smith, of course, eyes like a hawk, and He's found her. Now, this bull is sitting very close to us. He's probably only about, I'd say, what's that, Tibbs? About 5 meters or so. And he's very relaxed. And he's just not quite confident enough to come any closer. He's young, like I say, about 18. And I think, he looked like he might come between us and the bush. And then he decided better of it because he's a bit nervous. But it's just great spending an extended period with these magnificent animals. And they're so relaxed. Those lilies are taking a hammering. Look at that. They really are selecting for the lilies. It's just a small herd of 4. I'm very sure. In fact, Tibbs, if you just show the cow now, you can see she's about to pop. She's very, very pregnant indeed. You can see how swollen both sides of her belly are. Now, we're seeing these elephants walking about, selecting food, and doing absolutely nothing else. And Samantha, you're on Twitter and you asked a valid question. How long will they spend feeding a day? I think you'll find some of the big bulls, especially when the conditions are a bit difficult, will probably feed for up to 20 hours of the day in some extreme cases. But otherwise, at least 16 hours, Samantha. They've got to get a lot of nutrition into their bodies, and so I think that you'll find at least 16 hours a day they'll be eating. Let's move a little bit closer to that young bull there. I think there are 2 bulls here, and there's the pregnant female and the youngster, probably about 8 years old. That's all we've got. Just the 4. Very happily wandering about here, feeding on lilies, a little bush willow tree. What we want, of course, is for them to remain totally relaxed around us and just get on with their lives and not pay too much attention to us. They're obviously aware that we're here because we're driving around off-road making a noise, but we want them to be completely comfortable with us so that doesn't present anything of a threat. Jared, you're on Twitter and you want to know what an elephant's skin feels like. It feels very rough and leathery. It's not soft at all. But you don't really get an opportunity very often to feel an elephant's skin. So it's definitely not very soft. Now, why I've come this way is that I'm hoping that bull is going to follow the rest of the herd, and I'm pretty sure that it will. So let's follow this little herd of 3. We're making a bit of a noise now, so moving away a little. I don't like this noise. Turn to the side and let them relax a bit, and let's hope that bull comes through here. Right. Rick and Susie, very nice to hear from you again. I think you're in Seattle now, and here's your feather. You say you're very happy to find that I found you a lilac-breasted roller feather. This, of course, looked a lot better when I found it, but it's been a while since I heard from you. Anyway, there we go. There's the live Preston roller feather, and I look forward to receiving the Royal Hawaiian coffee. Delicious. It will help us through these early mornings. And you want to know about elephant digging? Are they digging more at this time of the year? I think the question was. And absolutely, Rick and Susie, they are digging more, and they're the only reason that there is any water left at Treehouse Dam at all. I think that there is quite a lot of water flowing in that drainage line under the surface, and the elephants have managed to find it, and they can actually feel it, which I think is the most amazing thing. But difficult here for them to find access to spots where they can actually dig out sufficient water to be able to drink. Let's go back to that bull. He's a little more relaxed than the others. Of course, there are huge numbers of Strychnos madagascarensis plants out here, or black monkey oranges, and they, of course, make a huge noise clattering up. When you go over them, they clatter back up into the undercarriage of the Land Rover, and that makes a big noise, and some young elephants just don't like it. Back up through here. Here comes the bull. In fact, we might just wait here. Let's just wait here. Here he comes. Oh, look at this. Here he comes. He's showing us how big and strong he is. Mimi, you're in Ohio and you're a first-time viewer, and you say, have I ever seen an elephant give birth? First of all, welcome. Lovely to have you with us. You're 15, and I have never seen an elephant give birth. I've come close, but I've never actually seen the birth itself. Now, what this elephant is doing is basically, by walking towards us and shaking his head a bit, he's saying, well, I'm big and strong, so watch out for me. Then because we haven't run away in terror, what he's done is he's now feeling slightly embarrassed. So he's hidden himself behind that bush willow tree, and he's going to eat a bit and shake the tree to show us how strong he is. Let's see what he does now. He may get a bit cheeky, but I don't think so. Isn't he wonderful? Ah, he's a great bull. He'll get much, much bigger than this. He probably stands now about 10 feet at the shoulder. He'll go up to 12 feet eventually, and he'll get a lot heavier. He's probably about 4 tons now. He'll get up to 6 tons when he's a fully grown bull. So he'll get a third again bigger. Stopping to have a look. He's exactly like a curious kind of 18-year-old boy. He's just trying to see, test his strength, who's afraid of him, who isn't. He's decided that instead of challenging us, he's going to head off back to his mum and the rest of the herd. All right, I'm not going to follow them anymore. They've got a little bit nervous at the car making a big noise through the bush, so we'll carry on up here. Wonderful stuff to see them, and what a privilege to spend a bit of time with such magnificent animals. Great. On we go. Most of these trees, of course, are what we call encroacher species, which means that they're only here because of probably a lack of elephants, actually, and a lack of buffalo. It's got various complicated environmental reasons, and so when we run them over, I don't want you to worry about it. Well, mainly because they do pop up straight afterwards, but I also would like to see far fewer Strychnos trees around here. One last pass. Okay, let's head back to Brent Leo Smith. I'm not sure if he's still got visual of the leopard, and we'll see you a little later.
So, unfortunately, Karula has ascended a large African ebony tree just to the south of our boundary, and that's the best visual we can get. You can barely make her rosettes out. And she's having a good snooze. I know she killed a steenbok yesterday or day before south of us, so she's sleeping off her full belly. So we're not going to stay here. I will keep my ear to the radio in case she decides to come back towards us. But we're going to head out and see what else we can find. If she does make any movement towards us, we will be back here in a flash. But so quite an interesting story. We were at the Treehouse Dam earlier, and the owners of Djuma are actually watching the show this morning. So a big hello, good morning, and a happy almost New Year to Yuri and Pippa Moorman. And we were talking about the dam, and Pippa sent me a message saying about the history of that treehouse. So, like most places in the Sabi Sands, before the advent of ecotourism, it was owned by farmers and whatnot, and it turned out to be a very bad cattle farming area. So what happened is a lot of the farmers were from KwaZulu-Natal. They used to farm sugarcane, and they would only come to this area for maybe 2-3 months of the year for hunting. And the platform, or the treehouse dam, was actually where they used to bait lions, leopards, to shoot them, and also elephant, buffalo, whatever came through to the water. So isn't it incredible in our lifetime that it's changed, that no one anywhere in the Sabi Sands would ever think about doing something like that anymore. So it's a bit of a history, a bit to remind us about how different the world was not so long ago. So very interesting. So that means that treehouse and that remnants of those treehouses from the 1960s. Isn't that incredible? And still some of it remain in that marula tree. So it wasn't really a treehouse, more of a shooting platform back in the old days. Oh, I hear a car moving. I just want to see if I can see if Karula's moved. She has not. So if she does move, I will be back here in a flash. But in the meantime, we're going to continue on. So it is a very bad signal area. So we're going to cross to James while I move out of here. And then I'll be back with you a little later.
Okay, we've left the elephants and we're heading up towards the hyena den to see what's going on there. It's got quite warm quite quickly, so I'm not sure that they're going to be around, the little ones. They may have gone inside, and the adults will probably be doing what most clever people are doing around this time of the morning, snoozing under a bush. While we drive along, a big happy new year to Pippa and Yuri Mulman, who of course are the owners of Djuma Private Game Reserve, this little piece of paradise that we're very privileged to call home and that we explore on a daily basis. And what a privilege it was to spend most of yesterday on foot, climbing trees and walking through the blocks here. Just very special to spend time in a wilderness area like this on foot. So thank you to the two of you, and I hope you have a marvelous, marvelous new year. So we're heading on towards quarantine clearings. Perhaps some of those little wildebeest are sitting around there, and as I've said before, the youngsters are surviving due to the absence of cats, and so they won't be vaguely sad not to see any lions around here for the next little while. And every single day they just get slightly stronger, and it just gives them a much better chance. I mean, so often I've seen a small herd of wildebeest like that give birth, and if there are lions around, they'll kill 3 or 4 a night. So that's why the wildebeest in this area, because the cat concentration in the Sabi Sands is pretty high, wildebeest concentration pretty low, it doesn't get much higher very often because cats just pick off the little babies. Unlike the impala, of course, once they've reached a certain critical mass, and beyond which, because they're all giving birth at the same time, the numbers still increase, regardless of whether, how many. The predators just can't eat enough for them to damage or reduce the recruitment rate of the impala. Struggling for a word there. are some guinea fowl. And while we are sitting here, I will explain Teresa's question. I think these birds are beautiful and shining in the light here. Teresa, you say, why, if an elephant's inside or tusk is considered a tooth, why are the rest of their teeth not considered ivory? I think for two reasons, Teresa. Look at the flycatcher hovering there. Did you see that, Ted? If you got him, would have been very lucky if you did. It's flown away. A little flycatcher that came in. Teresa, firstly, I don't think that you can work the sort of ivory in the molars. I think it's much more crumbly. I don't think it would work into sort of the jewelry and carvings that you can do with a tusk. And secondly, because human beings are just a bit gormless, and we consider that the incisor of an elephant and the ability to work it into some kind of jewelry or ornament, we consider that to be a valuable thing, and so that's been termed ivory. Whereas the teeth, I don't think you can work to the same extent, and therefore isn't given that designation. But it's entirely because us human beings have attached worth to ivory. And when you read some of the historical accounts of what happened when settlers landed in Africa, and when they're bringing with them guns, the astonishing numbers of elephant tusks, the mass, sort of 60 tons a year here and there, and 120 tons there, and 250 tons here, of the sheer grand scale of the slaughter of elephants in Africa once guns arrived on the shores is quite astonishing. And so when I say to you that I don't believe, there are quite enough elephants in this area, some scientists, and I use the term advisedly, will tell you there are too many elephants around. There were 8 elephants left in this area when the Kruger National Park was proclaimed. Just 8. The rest had been shot for their ivory, and essentially an entirely worthless commodity. You can't use it to make anything other than to feed the vanity of human beings. And it's a real indictment on our species that it got to that stage. Unfortunately, as we know with the rhino, that hasn't necessarily ended. With the rhino horn, you can kind of almost understand it because, obviously people think that it can be used for medicine, even though it cannot. But with elephants, there's just no excuse. Ex-Ranga, you want to know about, I said that they can feel water with their, when they dig. They can feel subsurface water, and you want to know if that's with their trunks or with their feet. Ex-Ranga, I'm pretty sure it's with their feet. They have very sensitive nervous systems on the bottom of their feet. I think those are used for communication as well. Certainly schools of thought that say that they can communicate tectonically by stamping. They can feel vibrations in the ground from other elephants. Whether that's true or not, I'm not sure. I've certainly seen various videos to that effect, but certainly their feet would be able to detect the flow of water close to the surface of the soil. So I think it's through their feet, Ex-Ranga. Lovely little scene here on quarantine clearings with the guinea fowl, and the guinea fowl, of course, are an important thing to take inspiration from for the 10 to 8 race that is going to take place probably on these very clearings. The guinea fowl is a very fast runner. I'm going to try and take some inspiration from that in my attempt to beat Brent Longleg Years in a 50-meter dash. Thank you to all of you for your kind thanks to Pippa and Yuri for sharing their piece of paradise with the rest of the world. Absolutely, a big thanks to them. And we're going to head across to Brent. I think he's found some elephants. Tell him to stretch his hamstrings and to get that gammy hip of his working in preparation for the great race. See you shortly.
We found a young Eddie bull And it looks like there might be some more elephants close by. Oh, actually there are. I can suddenly, all of a sudden, the bush is alive with elephants. And James has obviously not been able to find any animals, so he's focusing on the race, so he should be. I myself, of course, have relaxed. I feel no need for stretching. I'm hoping my long legs win out. And, ooh, it looks like there's a very big ellie bull here down on the left. I'm going to see if we can get a bit closer. James Richard on Twitter is wondering if there's any plant that elephants will not or cannot eat. Some of the noxious sort of smaller flowers and stuff like that. Hello, little man. Yes. They're very scary. Shake your head as much as you want. There are the one that comes to mind first off is milkweed, which is a type of sort of small bush or weed that has a very, very noxious latex. And with a lot of the plants on there, there's certain trees and elephants prefer. Where did that big ellie bull go? I think he's on the move. Oh, but it looks like there's some females and babies here as well. And then again, James, there's certain plants that an elephant will only eat at a certain time. So, timberti trees, for example, elephants will feed on. They're feeling a bit offish and they've got stomach full of parasites, and they'll actually take in poisons to expunge their system. It is quite thick. I'm not going to bash around here too much. There you go. Hello, big lady. Now, strange enough, that is a tree you don't see elephants feeding on too often. This one you see now feeding on. It could be, she just took a bite of it, but it could be because there's so little grass around that she took a bite out of the baby. There we go, she's going into it again. It's a baby torchwood. Yes, it is. Let me just get my binoculars to double check. Wait, the hand will zoom in. Oh, I apologize. It is not a baby. No, it is a baby torchwood. You can see that those spines. That gets, they also get the name, the other common name is a green thorn. And you can see that. And that is not a tree I've seen elephants feed on often. And it could be a case that we're in such a dry period that elephants will be forced to feed on certain species that they wouldn't normally. And again, with a lot of the species they don't normally eat, they will eat young ones rather than the old ones, obviously probably a little bit better tasting. Same as a baby carrot versus a big carrot. The baby carrots just seem that much sweeter.
She looks very round.
Yeah, she does look quite rotund. Looking at the other elephant behind her, yeah, there's a strong. It's possible she is pregnant. But with elephants, with their stomach system, it is possible she also has a very bad case of gas. So, but I don't think she's got gas. She does look very pregnant. And apparently saw a very pregnant female with James a little bit earlier. I wonder if these might not be the same ellies. So Gerald in final control thinks this is possibly the same herd. He says the female looks similar, and you can see those very staunch hairs around her mouth there. And elephants do have quite a lot of hair on their body. It's just not very visible unless the light catches it nicely. Nia, my cat on Twitter, is wondering whether elephants are one of the species that are able to delay birth if the conditions are not ideal. So it was long thought that impala were able to do that in wildebeest. Unfortunately, as wonderful as it sounds, it turned out that is a bit of an old wives' tale. And when a baby is coming, it's coming. And we're not able to really delay birth. Any animal, it goes against biology and science. But it was a really good story. And as in a lot of cases, can't let the truth get in the way of a very good story. Anyway, she's moved on. You can see that little bit of white in the corner of her eye. That is just normally build up of dust. It has been quite windy, and so the eyelashes will collect that dust, and blinking, it'll move towards the edge of her eye. Very similar to what people get with sleep, except she doesn't have fingers to remove it. She could probably remove it with her trunk, but obviously not irritating her at all. And now she's moved on to a plant species that elephants do eat more regularly, and there's a little zebra wood that she's feeding on now, or as we know it, a flat tire tree. It's one of the densest woods out here, and when we are driving off-road, it's one of the bushes we try avoid, because they're very good at giving us flat tires. It's a little bit interesting, so you can see other elephants come back, and it's actually smelled her. You could be smelling because she is so pregnant. And if we look between her front legs, you can see her teats are already enlarged, so they're getting full of milk in preparation for the baby. Wow, she is really pregnant. She literally looks like she could drop at any second now that we see her from that angle. The next generation of Djuma ellie on the way. And this poor ellie has been carrying that fetus for 22 months. The longest gestation period of any mammal we have out here. So we're going to jump across quickly to James, because he can't track any animals or find any cats. He goes to the only stable predator sighting we have.
You see, it's that kind of talk that gets Brent Smith into trouble, because, well, apart from it being deeply unfair, these hyenas are magnificent, and, you know, look at this, the first time we've seen this one come down this far. Let's ignore Brent Smith's pathetic jibe. Don't know where the other twin is. This is D1, and if you look at the back foot there, it's got the little white sock on it. And she hasn't come down that far before. I don't know where the other two are. I haven't looked around the other side, and it's possible that Pretty is there with November, but I'm not sure. And what she did there, that's interesting. You wouldn't have heard it, but Corky lifted her head there because there is a sound of another vehicle approaching. She heard the human voices on it, and as soon as she heard that, she lifted her head up. These cubs are too precious for words. For a while I thought D2, the other twin, was a bit more dominant. Tell you, these hyenas take a lot of disciplining from Corky. She's not what you'd describe as a softie. One almost gets the impression that she's had probably a number of litters, and this is just one too many. She's just a bit bored of being a mother. She doesn't seem to be taking to it with the same relish that Pretty has. around the other side. Come back. Come on. Let's just see what happens here. Of course, the one disadvantage of this perfect spot for the hyena den is that you're either on one side or the other, and you cannot be on both. Craig's just coming in. I'm just going to tell him which side to go. Craig, try the northern side to begin with, and there's one youngster there. Otherwise, come around here to the western side.
Look, I've got visual of the one person that's lying up there.
So Craig's going to go around to the other side then, and he'll tell us what's there.
Craig, what do you know? No, he's easy pilot. I'm going to go shortcut, which is active. Okay, thanks.
And then down below, lying very comfortably in the shade, is a little May. And of course, while coming to the hyena den might seem like something of a cop-out to some, or those of lesser intelligence, it is so important that we come and learn as much as we can while we have the opportunity to spend time at a hyena den like this. It is just such an amazing opportunity to test the theories that people toss about what hyenas are and how their social structure works and how intelligent they are. And we've seen some amazing things while we've been here. You may have heard the elephants calling behind there. What do you got there, Tibbs? Is that another hyena, or was it a piece of bush? No, it's another hyena. Well spotted. Still alive. I can see it breathing. Well done, Tibbs. You can see the scraggly hair there. I mean, you can see that when it was shining in the light there. You can see it's quite wiry. It's not something you wish to cuddle. But May, on the other hand, lying on the ground there, looks very fluffy indeed. I could quite happily give her a cuddle. Well, you wouldn't, of course, once those jaws started snapping. So we've watched that little cub from May. Obviously, that's what she's called, May. And you can see how she's grown up. And in the last 7 months or so, that is correct, is it May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, 8 months now, almost 8 months old. You can see how she's gone from a little black cub like the one we've just watched all the way to this sort of sub-adult colour that she is now. And she'll be at the den probably until she's a year old. She'll be in and out of the den. We have seen her leave a little bit and go and do a bit of foraging with the other two, but most of the time she'll be here waiting for her mum. And her mum I've seen once in the last, and I have spent many hours at this den. Her mother I've only seen once in the last, I think once in the last 6 months or so. Since they moved dens a few times, and I haven't seen her, since May stopped suckling. No, okay, I'm being a bit unfair. Maybe I haven't seen her mother in the last 2 or 3 months. She comes in every so often, and you can see by the scar on her back, maybe she feeds May a bit, gives her a bit of food, and then disappears off again. And I think May's mother is the matriarch. Oh, here comes a little one, straight down into the hole. The heat is starting to build a bit, so it wouldn't be too surprising if they go completely to sleep. But let's just sit here a few more minutes, and then we'll head out of here. Let's It's an interesting question from Elaine in Michigan. So we've speculated that the twins are either both males or one male and one female. And because if they're both males, Elaine, you're saying, is that possibly why Corky is being less than nurturing with them? I don't think she's being less than nurturing, Elaine. I think she's just being tough on them. I think that's just what happens with hyenas. And I think that it's got much more to do with her rank in society than it does to do with the sex of the cubs. I think she doesn't really mind whether they're male or female. I think she is simply, she's a very dominant female, and therefore she just doesn't take nonsense. And you can see that from her art. I mean, her body says to you that she's been in many, many fights. She's not a hyena that backs down. And so I think when her cubs irritate her, she simply gets irritated faster than some of the others. Now, Monkey Man YouTube, a very nice question, and it has a very interesting answer. We want to know if hyenas ever will gather in sufficient numbers to hunt big prey like buffalo or hippo. Monkey Man, absolutely they do, They get in huge clans, they will hunt anything. And in many areas of Africa, they're as effective as lions, and they'll take on prey the same size as lions will. So absolutely, Monkey Man, yes, they will in sufficient numbers. Not so much here. Here they tend to do a bit more scavenging than they do killing. But yeah, absolutely. Other parts of Africa, certainly, big clans of hyenas will take on a baby or small hippo, and certainly they'll take on buffalo. There was an incident at Londolozi a while back. There was a female elephant which had sort of squaff legs, and for many years the herd walked slowly and tried to help her to keep up with them, and eventually they could do it no more, and they left her, and she was eventually killed by a large clan of hyenas. So yes, they do definitely take on big prey. Trying to find out from Craig if he's got any sight of the little ones the other side there, but I don't think he does. So all is now completely peaceful here at the den, and you can see, I've said this before, why they've picked the den. There's a beautiful amount of shade. The mound itself is enormous, so there's lots of space to lie, lots of place to dig holes. It's just very, very pretty. If I was a hyena, this is exactly where I'd live. This is the Malibu of the hyena world. Although it's a pretty small clan. And again, what always amazes me when I come here is the fact that it's almost scent-free, it doesn't smell. And you'd expect hyenas to have a very smelly den. They've been here now at this den for at least 6 weeks, and that's a long time. And the books will tell you they move every 4 or 5 weeks. These guys have been here 6 weeks. They've got 2 litters of cubs, and so there must be a tremendous mess inside, and yet they stay here and it doesn't smell. So I think there's probably quite a lot of study and interesting information to be had on their cleanliness and how they clean their dens and who does it and when they do it, etc. Because of course that's why wild dogs leave their dens. They become full of disease.
Coming to the east. Yeah, opposite there. That's very close to the
So PK, you're obviously interested in hyenas, this wonderful family of carnivores that we get here, and you've been looking at something called an aardwolf. Now, an aardwolf or earth wolf is not a wolf at all, of course. It's a hyena, a very small hyena. It's probably about the same size as May. on the ground there. So the same size as the fluffy one on the ground is about the same sort of fluffiness also. And they're largely termite eaters, interestingly enough. And PK, you say you'd like to see one live. PK, I've heard of one aardwolf found around this area. That was at Ngala, which is up in the Timbavati, and that was many years ago, and that may have been a baby hyena. So I've heard of one record of them here. I suppose that it's possible that you could see them in the Kruger. I certainly have never seen one. Ooh, there's Pretty. Hello, Pretty. Beautiful.
I left over earlier, but she's still lullaby. I'm glad she has crossed north now.
And D. Chef, you say, you agree with me that the more we look at these hyenas, the further and further away from the picture presented by the Lion King the reality is. Absolutely. The Lion King did hyenas inestimable harm. And then I think also there was a view of a brown hyena yesterday on the Kwamaretani dam cam, which is in the northwest of South Africa, in the Pilanesberg National Park, where Andrew used to work. And it's also a spot that is on the Highveld, so it's almost on the edge of the Kalahari Desert. So you will find brown hyena there. It's not impossible that you'd find brown hyena here. I think there was a record 17 years ago, Peter told us about the other day. So brown hyena do occur in the Kruger Park, not commonly, much more common up on the Highveld there. And they're about halfway between the size of a big spotted hyena, so the one you're looking at now, and an aardwolf. But the spotted hyena here is the only one that lives in an enormous clan like this. They're the only ones that have that strange sort of hermaphroditic genitals and strange matriarchal society where females totally dominate the males. The rest of them are pretty solitary. And as you can see, Pretty looks pretty full. She looks like she's had something to eat last night. Now, Pretty, of course, will have to bring food back to the den via her mammary glands. So basically, she'll have to eat away from the den and then bring it back in her milk, because she's subordinate to Corky. You'll probably find that any food she brings back here, Corky will steal from her. It's a hyena eat hyena world, this. Seems to be something going on here. I'm not sure what. Corky's head's up. Oh, Pretty's gone running off. She just went down to the right-hand side of the den, straight past that other one that is sitting up now. That other one is covered in blood. Covered in blood. Look at that. You see that, Debs?
Yeah.
She's had her ear ripped. She's in a very bad way. I thought she looked very red. It's not the one that was attacked the other day, because she's got both ears attached.
James, can't read you, copy.
Ooh, she's not in a good way at all.
Brent, no, I'm away now. Told me to get older.
Gee whiz, that is quite something.
I'm busy trying at the moment. I'll keep you updated.
What we might try and do, I have tried to sneak around there before. Oh, there she is. There, she's coming out. Limping horribly. Oof. Look at that. Oof. Not in a good way at all. That's a horrible battle. Now, anybody who saw that fight, I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty sure that the one that was in the fight there had its ear ripped clean off. Ugh. So I don't know if that was an inter-clan fight or if there was some other kind of reason for it. Maybe they came across another clan and had a box. That's a very severe injury. She's covered in blood. You can see she's red from head to toe. I wonder if she's not going to try and limp towards the Gallagher waterhole, which is not too far from here. Let's take one last look at these two, and then I think we're going to go across to the waterhole there and see what pitches up. So let's go across to the Gallagher waterhole now and see if those two others don't pitch up there. Thanks. In South Africa, and lovely to hear from home. Well, home might mean in South Africa. Alberton, I've not spent a great deal of time. Kerry, you want to know, and I think it's a very good question, which I'm not sure I can answer for you. You want to know if hyena society, because it's matriarchal, have a slightly female-dominant sex ratio, so there are more females here than there would be males. Kerry, I think it's likely. The only reason that I'm thinking perhaps it isn't like that, Kerry, is because, of course, remember that when the females are born, if they're born twins and they're both females, one female will kill the other one normally. And so I'm going to say, logically it would make sense until you look at that sort of pattern of infanticide, a female infanticide. So I'm going to say no, you probably find there are more males in the clan. Very slightly more males. That said, of course, the males are not as dominant, and so they may get killed in adulthood more often, perhaps fewer than make it through to adulthood. So I would say maybe slightly male-dominated, just in terms of numbers, but possibly about 50-50. Remember, the females, if they're born as twins, one will kill the other. So, yeah, that's my answer to that one, Kerry. I might be wrong, though. Right, let's go. The waterhole is just down here, and that is now the only water, with by far the closest water to this den. And that hyena, many animals when they're injured will try and go to water and lie in water to sort of ease the pain. Oh, that was dreadful. The correction, apparently that the ear of the hyena during that fight that Scott witnessed was not ripped off, but it was hanging by a thread. Those two ears looked to me like they were both pretty much attached, so I'm pretty sure that's not the same female. And at the same, and Shaza, you want to know if that little white sock on D1 will survive into adulthood. I don't know. Their colours obviously change profoundly when they get a little bit older. We've already seen that in about 4 or 5 weeks the spotting will start to come on the neck. Whether that foot will stay with this little white patch, I don't know, but I hope so. It's so characteristic and it makes it, makes him so easy to identify. Is just down here. That hyena is going to take a while to get here, though. Kathy, I didn't watch the hyena fight, but you're wondering why the one that was eventually so badly damaged didn't fight back. Kathy, I think you'll find that a subordinate female like that, I'm not sure what caused the fight or what precipitated it, but I think you'll find that once you get into a situation like that, the hyena is all about trying to just defend itself. And if it's a subdominant female, if she's very low down on the hierarchy, her last instinct will be to fight back. It'll just be very much trying to leave me alone. I'm sorry, just kind of trying to defend herself. And so I suspect that's why she didn't fight back. You never have I think it's unlikely you'd ever have a dominant female and was attacked not fighting back. So just very much a situation where I'm trying to think of a human. You get to a human equivalent where somebody is so beaten down by life. They're so beaten down, so bullied. And of course, that's what the hierarchy is. It's simply bullying. So there's no other way of putting it. The bigger and nastier you are, the higher you will be in the hierarchy. And I think it's just the same as if you look at a situation in human society where there's just constant bullying, eventually somebody becomes so subordinate and so dominated that they'll never fight back. Now, a lot of you, of course, will worry about the fact that the hyena looks so injured, looks to be in such pain, and it's not easy to watch, it's not easy to see. And some of you are asking, will we put the hyena out of its misery, or could we? And the answer is absolutely not. It's a completely natural situation, and while it can be difficult to watch, we don't want to intervene. We are so often, and I've seen this countless times, I've been involved in one or two incidents like this where you try and intervene for what you perceive to be the good of the animal, and 9 times there's pretty. Right there. 9 times out of 10, it results in the animal dying or becoming worse injured because we get involved. So we're not going to get involved. If it was an endangered species like a cheetah or a wild dog, we might get involved, and we might bring the vet in to try and sort of repair the animal, but not with a hyena like that, no. And yes, I know it's horrible to watch, but you will be astonished at what these animals can recover from. So certainly to put it out of its misery now would be enormously premature. Let's just go around the side. We're in front of Gallagher Camp, which is the camp over here. Our hyena is now having a drink. To know if the other hyenas are likely to kill and eat the wounded female. No, I think they would have done that already if they were going to do that. They will eat their own, they will cannibalize their own at some stages, but that one clearly had come back to the den, probably for security reasons, and she wouldn't have gone there if she wasn't feeling very secure. Beautiful shot of a hyena having a drink there. She's just looking into camp, probably because she's raided the dustbins. You can see the light turning from a beautiful golden color to the much more bleached kind of midsummer light. All animals, of course, are very vulnerable when they drink, and so they will be very careful, all looking around all the time. Granny Billy Joe on Twitter. Wonderful Twitter handle, Granny Billy Joe. You want to know, apparently Brent and I have said that the hyena population is higher than it used to be. Granny Billy Joe, to be honest with you, I can't remember saying that, and simply because I don't know. I haven't been here for long enough to know that. I would say, I've never spent any time in the Northern Sabi Sands but for the last 8 months, and so I'm not sure the hyena population is any higher than it ever has been before. I think it'll go through ebbs and flows, like all populations do. This is not a particularly big clan. There's a large clan to the west of us that consists of about 35 members. They've got 4 active dens at the moment, so I don't know if there are any more hyenas than there were before. Their numbers might be quite high at the moment, simply because the lions are not about as much as they used to be. So, Granny Joe, I think you'll find that the numbers will go up and down in a sort of dynamic equilibrium, and that's what will happen. I don't think that they're necessarily any more than they were before. There might be, but I haven't been here long enough to tell. And if I've given that impression before, I certainly haven't intended to. Now, I think we should sit here for 5 minutes and just see if that injured hyena doesn't come and try to seek some comfort from the water. Pretty ran off there and ran off back sort of towards the den, and I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't a secondary den quite close by. A few nights ago we were watching them, and 2 or 3, here she comes right here. Craig, come in. I'm just going to tell Craig. Craig, that injured animal is on its way to the water now, if you want to come look. Now, I know this looks dreadful, everybody, and I know it's hard to watch, but you will be astonished that this hyena may well survive this. They are amazingly resilient. Now, she's had a big fight. I suspect with another clan of hyenas, and I don't even know that that's a she. That might be a male, although it's quite big. So similar damage. I mean, I didn't see the fight, like I say. It's the left front foot that has been badly gashed, badly bitten. That ear is certainly fully attached. It's just been torn a bit, but it certainly hasn't been torn off. So I don't think, my instinct would be to say that this isn't the hyena that was in the fight. Oof, some nasty injuries on the face though. James, on Twitter, you want to know about the hyena clan upheaval and whether the cubs will be at risk if there was some upheaval within the clan. James, always, yes, the cubs are always at risk. If there is a sort of attempted takeover of the matriarchy, which is almost, beyond the realms of possibility because the matriarchy will be inherited, yes, the cubs could be at risk. I think their major risk, though, is from probably lions once they start to get mobile. So once they get to the age of May, they're not at risk in the den, but maybe probably from marauding other hyenas. So males who come, it's normally the males who go foraging into other clans' territories and have a look what's going on. And that's why I wonder if this isn't a male who went lurking into another clan's territory and got himself a nasty beating. He's got no teats and he's old enough, you see. I think this is a male. And while he looks terrible, everyone, you will be amazed how these things can survive. So, Marisha, you want to know if this looks like a younger hyena to me? No, it doesn't. It looks like a fully mature male to me. I think this is a man who went, a male that went foraging, and he got himself into trouble. So not younger, no, I think just a smaller male. Remember, the males are smaller than the females. And he's just seeking some comfort here in the water. Got a very swollen knee joint on his left front foot. And as Jerry says, he looks like he wants to lie down, but he just doesn't quite know how or where to do it. He's got to be very careful, you see. Yeah, I'd say this is a male. Come on, boyo. Go and find some shade and recover. Difficult to watch. I'm going to put my money on this chap surviving, though. Unless he has another fight. Obviously, now he cannot defend himself now. So if he's attacked again, that's why he went to the den, I think, because he knew that the dominant females were there and they wouldn't hurt him, and that if anybody came after him, they would certainly try and do some serious damage. You can hear the monkey's alarm calling now. You see the monkey there, Tibbs? In the tree just above there. Thanks, X-Dragon, for your kind compliments that I guessed where the hyena was going to go. It really wasn't very hard, simply given the fact that it was so injured. And I have ended up so often with egg on my face, having tried to predict what an animal's going to do. Anyway, I think he's going to go and lie in the drainage line here. Like I say, I think if he's left alone, I think he'll be fine. And I think he needs to spend as much time as he can at that den, just staying out of the way of Corky. But while she won't look after him, if a marauding other hyena was to come into the area, I think she'd destroy him. So the marauder, I mean. So I think as long as he stays around here, he'll be okay. He cannot defend himself now, though. So if he's attacked again, he's going to be in trouble. Anyway, he's not going to go foraging into anyone else's territory just at the moment. Fascinating, fascinating stuff. This is why we go to the hyena den. Tell Brent that, while he drives around looking at not very much at all. I think we're about 40 minutes away from the great race. Just do some stretches. Sure that I'm limbered up. Of course, Brent is much younger than I. And to make sure that I'm in fine fettle. Brent is a little bit like, if we could liken it to vehicles, he's like a sort of, he's like an, what's he like? He's sort of like a, I suppose, this is going to sound unkind, but he's a bit like a car that's made by a new car manufacturer. Don't really know what they're doing. They put all of the kind of all of the bits and pieces that should make for an incredibly fast and powerful vehicle into one machine, but haven't necessarily attached them all in the correct fashion. And certainly over few years of use, some of those pieces seem to be malfunctioning, but when they come together, should they come together, the effect will be astounding. I am more likened to an older model of vehicle, and definitely nothing like these Land Rovers, possibly more finely tuned at the moment, but you know what you're going to get out of it, you know? And so my race today will be entirely predictable. Brent's, as is the want with his character, will be entirely unpredictable. So let's see. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Patty, you're in Tennessee and you want to know the blood on that hyena will attract other predators. Patty, I don't think so. It won't smell too much. Other hyenas in the area might smell it, but I don't think it's going to attract predators. It's not sort of like blood in the water that's going to attract sharks and that sort of thing. So no, I don't think it's going to attract other predators, Patty. Washington, my comments are a little bad at the moment. I don't get your question. It will come back again from Jerry. Rick and Susie, not Angie. Yes. Rick and Susie, you worried about rabies, and would rabies be a factor for hyenas? All mammals can carry rabies. It doesn't necessarily affect them all, but yes, absolutely could be a factor. I don't think as a result of that fight, though. I think that's a territorial fight. We know that there is rabies, certainly in the domestic dog population of this area. We're pretty sure that it doesn't exist outside of that, but it can be carried by things like mongoose, so without expressing. And I don't know if hyenas are able to carry it without expressing the disease. I think it's quite possible that they could, but I don't think that animal is at risk of rabies because of the fight. I hope that answers your question. Look at the Djuma Dam camp. Now you see Kachino, John, I think this might be a mistake of yours. You say that I do a bit more exercise than Brent, and Brent doesn't look too athletic. That is true. But Brent was a very fine athlete in his day. And like I say, you just never know what you're going to get. He might fall over at the first step, but he might also run the first 50 meters in Usain Bolt speed. So we just don't know. His hip might pop out after 10 meters. He's also so competitive that even if he had to drag his hip along, I suspect he'd still finish. Kind of you to put your money on me, Kachino, John. That's very sweet. Hope it will not be misplaced. Now you see Lewis and Buffalo, you're probably correct. You think I'm setting myself up for bruising. Now, I may well be. It was inevitable, though, that once Brent had raced Andrew, it was inevitable that there had to be some kind of race-off. And it'll be embarrassing for one of us. One of us will be very pleased at the end of it. And as Andrew said to me yesterday, you have to beat Brent simply because if you don't, we'll never hear the end of it. Camp Soulcat, and for all viewers, you want to know if there's a drive tomorrow or this evening, and will there be one tomorrow? Absolutely, there will be one this evening. There will be one tomorrow morning. Its quality I cannot verify because obviously it is New Year's Eve tonight. I think this may well be the first year in about 20 that I don't see the New Year in. That will simply be because to get up at 03:45 is deeply, deeply unpleasant when you've gone to bed at 12 o'clock in the morning. So, yes, there will be a drive tomorrow morning. But Jamie and I will be on base, and Jamie and I will be on base from this afternoon. Of course, Brent is going on leave. So, the race today will be his final act of this particular work site. So remember, he can put everything into it now. So we're just crossing the dam wall, or at least the drainage line, last extent of which Karula was in. That's quite a long way south of here. We'll just drive down into the thicker stuff. There's all some elephants. Different herd of elephants, not the same ones. I would also like you to point out to Brent the next time you see him, everyone, that he claimed to find some elephants, but they were exactly the same elephants that I'd found earlier. There's a Wahlberg's eagle, a pale fawn Wahlberg's, probably from the nest just near camp, going out for a morning forage. And here we have a little herd. I'll just move a little bit forward, and I'm not going to go blasting off road after them. It's very thick in here. Brent Smith is now hailing me on the radio. I suspect he's getting excited, you see. Let me get hold of him. And go ahead. He would like to know what time I'd like him to wipe the dirt with my face. Brent, I think we should meet at 7:45 on quarantine clearance in the old touch rugby field. Brent is currently on quarantine clearing, scoping the most even piece of ground. He says he's woken up everybody who was asleep and in the camp, including Jamie, and it's just to come and show everybody how he's going to wipe my face in the dirt. I'm now starting to feel quite nervous. There's now a poll on Twitter as to who is going to win this race, so please go and vote. Hashtag Safari Live. I can't believe how far this has gone. This is terrible. Anyway, back to the elephants. There's a breeding herd of elephants here, which I can't concentrate on. A cow to the left, a young, very happily confiding one to the right under the knobthorn tree there, and everybody seems very relaxed. And I think it's just simply a function of the fact that they would have heard us coming from a long way off. They didn't perceive us as a threat, which is wonderful, and they're just very quietly feeding through here. And they're going to spend more and more time on the banks of these drainage line areas, around, where the bush is a bit thicker, because that's the bush that's going to stay the greenest for the longest as the drought starts to take hold. And as long as those little pans that we're watching keep getting pumped, animals that would ordinarily die during a drought won't. They'll survive. Now, the difficulty of that, of course, while it's easier for us to watch them drinking and staying alive, remember that the more animals that there are that survive this drought, the more pressure there's going to be on the food resources, on the grazing and on the browsing. And if water, or lack of water, is not causing a sort of bit of die-off, or certainly a lack of survival amongst youngsters, it's going to put increased pressure on the browse and the graze. So it's just a very simple example of what we were talking about earlier, where human intervention is often a poor idea, because what happens is, we provide water for the animals because we think, well, if you've got more water, you'll have more animals, and that must be a good thing. And it isn't necessarily, because we have more animals, but much more pressure on the browse and graze of the area. So we've put dams up and pans all over the place. It just makes it a lot more difficult for the ecology to survive a drought. Now, a wonderful question from Marianne in Boston. I'm going to answer your question, Marianne, with an example of precisely what you're asking about. You want to know if the marula trees are going to fruit this year, given the drought. Marianne, my answer is going to be yes, simply because I've seen two that are already in fruit. I found another one yesterday, and the first one we found was about 3 days ago. I climbed up it and got some fruit out of that tree. And so, yes, on quarantine clearings, there are a few marulas that are already starting to fruit. I think they're fruiting quite early, and I suspect that's a function of the drought. Whether those fruits will be as tasty or as nutritious as they are normally, I don't know. While we're looking at these elephants, you asked the question, how do you judge an elephant's age? Karen, well, first of all, you guess, and so there is a lot of guesswork involved, and it's basically experience and from looking at their size. Remember, an elephant never stops growing from the day it's born to the day it dies, and so the bigger it is, the older it is, quite simply. And then you just start to get an idea from experience. And so I would say that this female here, or this male, I don't know what it is, this calf over there that we're looking at, I'd say is under 10, probably about 9 or so. And then there's a big cow coming through from the back there. She, to me, looks like a mature female, not old. I'd say she's probably sitting at about 25 to 30 years. I may be wrong, but those, just from experience and from asking more experienced people, that's what I'd say that those two ages are. It is very difficult to know, though, unless you follow an animal from its birth. And of course, other than with the leopards and the lions, we seldom are able to do that. The elephants will disappear out of our traversing areas often, and they come back a bit later. And then there are, lots of different herds coming in and out. Difficult to tell who's who without a collar. Hyenas, same story. Or slightly less so, because we do spend a bit more time in the den these days. But certainly with buffalo and many of the other animals, giraffe, there's a lot of guesswork involved. She is moving a Ziziphus tree out the way. Tibbs, who do you think is going to win the race?
Probably you.
That's very kind of you, Tibbs. I think you're just saying that because we're both short. You're hoping I'll win.
You're faster.
Goodness gracious, this is a very kind, a kind poll on Twitter saying 66% reckon that I will win and 34% reckon Brent. Well, that's very kind. I'm certainly not that convinced. And there are some beautiful calls of the southern boo-boo in the background. It was called as a little pair. In the way distance, I can hear a breeding herd of buffalo. I'm pretty sure it's the same herd of buffalo that Brent was looking at a little bit earlier. Lovely herd of elephants and a nice gentle breeze coming out of the southeast. Quite interesting. I don't know why it's got so much sort of cooler, but certainly the days have not been nearly as hot over the last 4 or 5 days as they were a week ago, in the time leading up to Christmas, when we were just in a severe state of heat shock pretty much all the day. I'm going to roll slowly back here and we'll get a view of this youngster, and then we'll move on, make our way slowly towards quarantine clearings for the race of reckoning. elephants, and we'll hand you over to Brent. He's going to show you his preparations for the track and tell you what happened to Karula and where she is. We'll see you shortly.
So, welcome back. Quick update on Karula, the Queen of Djuma. She is still lying in the tree in the exact same position we left her. There's a very strong possibility she will cross into Djuma before the sunset safari. So it'll be up to the J&J, James and Jamie, to try find her. As you can see, I'm on the western edge of quarantine. Here is the finish line of the race. I am fully prepared. I've even worn a lighter shirt so I can move faster than James can. And of course he's going to come here, and I've measured out 50 steps. And he's going to say my steps are unfair because my legs are longer, and he's going to have to try and measure them himself. In his defense, one of my steps is 2 of his. So we will see what he has to say when he gets here. But I'm quite looking forward to this now. I thought... James is being a little bit ridiculous, taking this as seriously. Andrew and I just had a fun race, but now this has become, what would you call it, Andrew?
A challenge.
A challenge.
Sorts.
He has challenged my manhood, and shame. He has been getting a bit big for his boots for a while now, so we just need to cut him down a little bit. You people, there's a poll on Twitter, 63% say James. Shame, that's just because you feel sorry for the little guy. But we will see. The answer will happen shortly. I think James is coming to check the track at 15 minutes to 8, a quarter to 8. And then we shall be sprinting shortly after that. James is obviously feeling quite confident. He's got to talk himself up somehow there. The starting point is just beyond those terminalias. We do have a few impala watching behind, and I have made a point of waking up everyone else who is in camp so we can get a bit of an audience. I need cheerleaders, and of course Jamie will be there clapping me on. So I actually have a head cheerleader, and that's for all you haters out there who don't think I'm going to win. But the track is set. In the meantime, I'm going to go see if I can find some baby wildebeests before we decide to start racing each other in a highly infantile and juvenile masculine display of manhood. But we shall do it anyway because we are here to keep you entertained. And the funny thing about boys is it doesn't matter how old they get, they still pretty much the same as they were when they were 12 years old. For the birders, just in case no one has. Oh, it flew, Andrew. You got it where it's going? Yes. So back end of the spike form. So zoom, 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 left a little bit, left. There we go, zoom in there. Now finding it's going to be an interesting thing. It was a little grey-headed sparrow. I don't know, not one I've shown on camera too often. So I thought for everyone's bird list, it might be a nice one. Let's go see if we can find it again. Looks like it landed just on the back of the spike thorn. It could have taken off sneakily, unbeknownst to me. No, I can hear it. I cannot see it, but I can hear it. That is highly frustrating. Okay, well, just because we can, there's Cape Glossy Starling, it looks like, in the distance, the base of that terminalia tree. I'm sure it's a bird you've all got, but I cannot admit defeat that there was no bird here. There we go. Oh, it's a Burchell starling. Sorry, it was quite far away. And it's patrolling around looking for insects. Now, at a quick view, obviously it's quite far away from where I thought. The main difference between a Burchell's and a glossy starling from a distance is the Burchell's is a bit darker and the glossy has an incredibly bright orange eye. We get two types of glossy starlings here, the lesser blue-eared and the Cape glossy. And I'm sure most of you have all the starlings on your bird lists. It's still a very pretty bird, and it's got that wonderful iridescence on its feathers. And when a starling stops looking shiny, that is when it's in bad condition. So that's how you can tell when a starling's not looking well. And that is also how the females choose different mates. James, the musician, apparently has found a soundtrack for a race. I'm hoping it's Chariots of Fire, but I'm quite sure, knowing James, it's something slightly more ridiculous. Oh, it is Chariots of Fire! It is Chariots of Fire. So for those of you who are South African, when James and I were kids, there was a wonderful tyre advert that consisted of a Staffordshire Terrier running a race against much faster dogs. It was tough and he won. And the slow-mo of the Staffordshire Terrier running into Chariots of Fire has probably been ingrained in all South Africans of my age. Andrew, you remember it? Dun, 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 with the big Staffy jumping. So there we go. We'll get Andrew to do the soundtrack.
Yes.
So we're going to have... Pretty Nightmare on Twitter thinks Scott would beat us both, but we'll have to test that. Unfortunately, I know for a fact he wouldn't. For those of you who know about rugby, Scott is what you would call a forward. So he played with the big thugs in the front row, or he was a flanker. James was a scrum half, and I varied my position mostly at number 10 at fly half, although I did have quite a few games at fullback as well. The reason James played scrum half is because he was too small to play anywhere else in the team. To give you an idea, I weigh about 210 pounds and I'm 6'3", and I was the second smallest person in my rugby team. We had a prop, which is basically, I think, if you climb into American football. Oh, Andrew, are you up for it? No, it's gone behind us. Will it come back? It's going to come back in front. It's a barn swallow. Oh, it's going further and further away. Might come back. Also known as a European swallow. There you go, flying straight at us. Now, an interesting thing about swallows is that different species, to avoid competition in food, they feed at different trophic levels. So you'll find your European or barn swallows feed very low to the ground, hawking insects there. And your red-breasted swallows will feed slightly higher, and then your lesser and greater striped swallows even higher. And then above them you get the martins, which are a type of swallow, and swifts. So to avoid competition for the same insect resource, all these different swallows feed at different trophic levels. For those of you wondering what a trophic level is, basically a different level in the food chain. And it's nothing to do with size or whatnot, but so if we take giraffe as opposed to Inyala, for example. Inyala feed at a very specific trophic level, and giraffe feed at a higher trophic level. And a lot of species develop this, so there's no competition for the exact same food resource. But back to rugby. I played with a gentleman who I think in American football the equivalent is a linebacker, a large hulking individual who blocks people, if I remember my American football correctly. And at the ripe old age of 19, he weighed 115 kilograms. So what's that? Probably 260 pounds, somewhere around there, and was 6'5". I was very happy he was on my team, not on the opposition, because I saw him break many people's bones in perfectly legal and legitimate tackles. So James hasn't arrived. I think he is scared. We can't see him anywhere. I think we might have to call the whole thing off. He has found the cheerleaders. He is escorting towards us. So let's get into position. Andrew will be doing the sound, his best rendition of Chariots of Fire. James Henry will be eating dust. Oh, James has it on his phone. We're going to play it on the microphone. This is getting slightly ridiculous now. It's amazing what boys will do. I, of course, need to rush to do some stretches. I know James has been so worried he's been stretching all morning. And he'll probably try change the race location to throw me, but I'm not easily swayed or thrown by sudden changes. Andrew, how's that look for you? Have you got enough of the finish line?
Yes, perfect.
Perfect. Andrew says it's perfect. And also, I know James, he's got very soft feet, so he shall be doing this race in shoes. I, however, shall be doing it barefoot. So I'm just going to have to change my radio channel to James because he's lost. He can't find quarantine clearings. That's how scared he is. James, ingene emoyen. James, come around towards the western side of quarantine, the main road that goes through the middle. The most straight and even running surface I could find, where I can run barefoot and not in sandals. So I've let him know exactly where it is. Don't worry, I'll move my shoes away so you don't have to look at them during the race. So let's go across to James and he can lead you in while I do my warm-ups.
Of course, I'm now feeling dreadfully nervous, everyone. We're going to the western side of quarantine, where Brent Smith has set the track up. I'm not sure that's entirely fair. And of course, this will be the soundtrack to our race today. Not sure if you can hear it. The old Vangelis classic, of course, Chariots of Fire. I managed to find this on my cell phone. I'm not sure how it got there. Quite appropriate soundtrack as we approach the final reckoning of the 50-meter dash Djuma Championship. Anna Marie, it is untrue that I was a soccer coach. I am worse at soccer than I am at any other game I've ever played. I was a rugby coach for a little while though. I see Brent Smith's vehicle up ahead. Brent, of course, has been warming up now for about half an hour. One car at the finish line. Okay, we'll put Tibbs there horizontal. How far are we running? How far are we running?
50 steps.
50 steps.
I'm sure you will just
Oh, this is terrifying, everybody. I'm feeling slightly inspired by the music though. It's not a really long race this. on Twitter you say Brent is going to be tripped by a dung beetle. With any luck that will be the case. No, we're playing Chariots of Fire at the moment. The poll on Twitter, Brent, is that 65 say I will win, 35 that you will win. I don't think that's long enough. I think we're going to reverse back 10 minutes. Right, everybody, here we go. C.P.S. Johnson, you would like us to sing the South African national anthem.
Don't want me to sing.
Brent sings like Corvus the Crow, which is not a good thing. Okay, right, here we go. Everybody, we're not doing the anthem. Right, Brent, you're going live now.
Okay, we're going across to Andrew.
You're live.
Do you want to run towards Andrew or away from Andrew?
I know we're going.
This is the finish line. Do you want to step it out with me, Jen? We need to give Andrew the phone to the music. Phone to the music, Andrew.
No,
okay.
stop.
You happy to step it out? James chose the wrong outfit. He's wearing heavy khaki clothing. I went for a more streamlined. See? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What happened to the shoes?
1920s, become
45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52.
All right, that'll do.
Okay.
Now, who's going to start the race? Andrew?
I can start the race.
You'll have to start the race, and Jerry, of course, will have to cross over to Tebs for the finish.
And we're not going to have comms with Jerry, I'm afraid, because running with radios is slower.
Right, I'm taking my shoes off. I'm considering taking my heavy shirt off as well, but I think
you would love it if James
the
took his
viewers would
shirt
be
off.
terrified if I did that. Remove my heavy belt.
I did mention to the viewers this is probably the most infantile and juvenile display of masculinity that has ever happened in the Sabi Sands.
Okay, we're going old school.
Take your shirt off.
On your marks, get set, go.
Remember what we discussed, Andrew?
No cheating. I'm even going to show you my bald spot, everybody. That is how concerned I am about this. Are you doing a standing start, or are you doing a...
We can do a standing start. I don't mind.
start?
Standing start suits me.
Right. When you're ready, Andrew.
On your marks, get set, go!
Get to my comms quickly.
Sorry about that.
They did give you a little bit of hope there.
They did give me a bit of hope.
But you also got to see James Henry without his shirt on.
That is an unpleasant thing to see. It's just a great mass of hair.
We were just catching our breath.
Right.
I unfortunately did do myself an injury there.
At least
not.
my hip stayed in place.
I'm now obviously going to go and lie under a bush and feel sorry for myself. Right, we'll see you back at breakfast.
Yes. You might want to carbo load before the next race.
Yes, here we go. It's not going to end ever.
Oh, James, you started this.
I did not.
You did start this.
I did not.
Andrew and I had a nice friendly little race, and you had to come get competitive.
See you later.
As James
Well done.
Henry walks away in disgust, I shall saunter back to my vehicle. My hamstring, I'm afraid, is going to need some deep rubbing after this. But thank you for joining us today. Wonderful for Andrew and myself. On our last day, we did get to see Karula, even if it was just briefly. Still trying to catch my breath. Oh, shame. Look at him walk away. Poor man. Oh, and the peanut gallery arrives late. There they are to the left. Gerald in final control. How many meters did I win by? And Gerald, I'm on the same channel as James, in case you are wondering. So I'm no longer on one. Oh. I'm not sure which of us is live, which is not. We are live here, Andrew and myself. So we are on leave. This is our last drive of 2015, and it's been an absolutely amazing year. And I think I can say for Andrew and myself, it's been an absolute pleasure to have joined you and joined the Safari Live team. And some incredible sightings, some great friends made, and we will see you in 2016. So we're just going to go to James so he can say adieu, and Andrew and I will see you next year.
Of course, I cannot look Brent Smith in the face ever again after that, which is as I suspected. And while it was quite a close thing in the end, I got the distinct impression that Leo Smith was backing off towards the end. So probably even faster than he looks, really. I will now have to probably mainline some Prozac in order to get over the depression of losing. It's going to be a tough start to the new year, everybody. It's going to be a tough start.
Is this how it felt, James?
You see, this is how it's going to go for the rest of time now. He's going to be like this for possibly the next 40 years.
Bye.
Eating his dust. I feel so sick. Putrid. Anyway. Have to think of something to get him back. So thank you to all of you for watching that ridiculously, as Brent said, puerile example of manhood. And thank you all of you for being with us throughout this year, actually. And I hope you all have a magnificent new year. Big thanks to Tebs on camera. Thank you to Andrew on the other camera. Brent can go and take a flying jump. A big thanks to Geraldine, of course, as well. And we will see you later this afternoon at 4 o'clock. And I hope that whatever you're going to be doing for your New Year's will be a great celebration. Unlike, I think, many of us who over New Year's try and find a great celebration to have and often just have one for the sake of it. That will not be happening this year. Okay, that's it from us. We'll see you not next year. We'll see you at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Stay safe and happy wherever you are. See you then. Bye-bye.